start off with Coach Landreneau. He's going to do an opening statement, and then he'll take questions, and then we'll go to Coach Hill, opening statement. He'll take questions, and after that, if there's any more to be asked, we'll go ahead and do it that way. So, Coach Landreneau?
Yeah, man. Thank you. We're about roughly a day away from being 2 days back in camp right now, and actually kind of fits into about 2 weeks away from open day of season, which we're excited to be able to open up with 6 games at home, open weekend. But effort's been really good for our team right now. It's just a lot of kids competing right now, trying to narrow down some final spots that we have and trying to figure out a lineup. We're looking probably roughly about 3 more inter-squads, full inter-squads with some brief interaction between our team for as live situations go over the next couple of weeks. But effort's been good. We're starting to play a little bit more feel for each other, and it's just trying to, we have some good young people, a lot of new faces in some key positions this year, so just trying to make sure to get enough reps to get ourselves ready to play.
Okay, go ahead and open up for questions.
Difference this year, you guys have always opened on the road, it seems like, and playing major competition.
Yeah.
What's the difference with playing at home this year?
Jim, the one thing when I got the head job, this is actually our 3rd year in a row to open up at home. And that's the one thing, was trying to get a home schedule, let our fans be able to see our players, and it gives us more time to be in class, but also bringing in some good teams. And, last year we were able to bring in Virginia as well as Tulsa. This year we were able to bring in, some really good, with Linscomb coming in as well as Campbell and Arkansas. There's some really good teams in that situation. So I think for us, it's allowing our fans to stay at home and kind of get used to it. This year, I think we have 30 home games, if I counted right last time, and that was a big increase. About 4 years ago, I think we started off our first 22 on the road. So we never want to do that again.
Is part of that drawing interest quickly on the team compared to those past years when you kind of were forgotten about playing on the West Coast?
Yeah, I think it's hard to build a fan base when they're reading about you in the newspaper. I think they want to see you. I think our fans want to see you. And I think our kids like that support. So that was kind of our commitment to the university and our fan base, is to try to open it up at home.
Obviously, you lose Erica.
Yeah.
A big hole to fill. But how are you going to fill that?
Yeah, it's that 1-2 punch sometimes. We kind of forget about Piancastelli catering for so many years that we had, and it is different when you look down the lineup. But we knew that going in, and we kind of I think our kids did a really good job of opening day really playing present. And I think that we actually learned that from the last 2 years. Even though we had 2 years where we had a lot of same people, it was still a totally different team. And that's what we've done really well, is finding a way to be our team and try to find our identity. And this is a really good defensive team, and the bats are picking up, but we have some young players that are ready to be in that lineup.
Coach, she was a very selfless player, but easily recognized as the core of the team, the star of the team, and continually would contribute in key parts. How difficult is that, and do you have a mindset that you worked with such a special player to go out and find another?
Yeah, I think as a
Is it
coach,
possible?
I think as a coach, we got to stay away from trying to find greatness like that. I
Why?
think it kind of develops, because we didn't know Erica was going to be that good. We watched her play. We knew she was going to be a good player. And what she did when she got here, mentally and physically developed, she turned into that kind of player. I don't think you think you have a bunch of talented kids, but I think it's hard to really realize how good they're going to be. And the same thing with Erica. If you took what she did, she developed into a great player. And we believe we have some young players right now that have a tremendous upside, that have the body and the athletic, and they're tough. And I think what Erica kind of did is kind of pass on that ability to be coached hard and to also be a selfless player, and that's still in our locker room today. Mm-hmm. But if you take that entire senior class last year, they were selfless. There's 4 years players on that team that with Shelby Strickland being one of them, and Shanice Hagler, that spot played a lot over the 4 years, but they really kept our locker room together. So there's a lot being passed on. But I think the biggest thing for our kids, our players right now, is they're really starting to gel as this year's team for the 2019 season. That's what they're focused on, is what it's going to take for this team to win.
You got your entire pitching staff comes back. Do you or the team put more? I don't know if it's pressure or more responsibility on them because they're all another year experienced. Is it more of that, or is it just kind of contribute to the team how you have?
Yeah, their job, they know what their job is, and each player has a role that they got to perform. We try to stay away from expectations. That comes from other people. Our job is we expect to do our job, and they know what their assignments are. So I think the leadership and experience of playing and having more games under their belt will definitely contribute. The biggest thing for them, it helps them learn how to get ready to start a game, and how their body feels so they can get ready for their next start or be able to come in at the pen. Last year with 3 freshmen, it was a big adjustment for a lot of them coming out the pen. So that was a whole learning curve for them. I think we'll be a little bit sharper in those areas this year.
Over the last few years, you get to kind of set a standard here. Is it harder to maintain that standard or to build it up the first time?
Yeah, I definitely think we talk about this a lot, and sustained success is definitely one of the most challenging things you'll ever have. And part of that is flushing whatever's happened and realize that's in the past, and we have to do a good job living in the moment. And our moment right now is for this team to get themselves ready to play day to day. So we can't live on what's been done in the past.
Back to the pitching. I look here and it's a very, not totally even, but a lot of starts are kind of fairly evenly distributed. Is that a plan for this year, or are you trying to find more of an ace?
Yeah, however the season really unfolds, early in the year you play a lot. You got to realize that I think a big difference for us is, we're going to play 6 games open week. We'll be 2 weeks into the season with 11 games played. So you're going to have to rely on a lot of arms to get that done if you want to have some fresh arms at the end of the year. And that gives each one of them a chance to really kind of see what their strengths are. So when we move down the stretch, if we need to get some matchups, we know who's going to match up better. So that's something we've always done, is trying to get a lot of people innings and experience. And obviously, as warrants down the stretch, we'll go ahead and give innings accordingly.
All right, thank you, Coach. Go ahead, Coach Hill. Coach, go ahead, opening statement.
Well, I'm ready for us to play. We got started fall practice. We welcomed 13 new players to our program, including 3 players that we didn't have last year. We had approximately 30 practice dates. Half of them were inter squads. Then we had 2 fall games that we were able to play. New NCAA legislation allowed that. Did not take away from your total of 56 games you could play during the spring. So that was the first time I'd ever been a part of that. I thought it was a great opportunity to play outside competition, to see kind of how your kids would react under pressure. I thought we played well. I thought it was good to see that. The kids were sore the next day. It was just nice to see somebody in a different color uniform. Then we finished up with our Fall World Series, just kind of a players weekend thing that we did. Then after that, we just started the training process again, just to get ready. We got to see kind of acclimating those 13 new players. Also, you got a bunch of returning guys, trying to figure out how everybody's going to kind of fit in with what we're trying to do. Then I think probably the hardest part of the time is for a coach is that time right after Thanksgiving until you're able to see your kids again. And we didn't see them from the week before Thanksgiving until January the 14th when classes resumed. So basically for as long as we were with them, we were just that long without them. And we had to count on them to make sure that they were ready when they got back. For all intents and purposes, what we've seen so far, I think our guys did a really good job with that. Guys did a good job in the classroom, highest GPA for a semester in program history. So I was really proud of what they did there. We will start full team practice this weekend. That's the first time we're allowed, per NCAA rules, to be able to do that. We will go with 3 inter squad games this weekend, and then our first actual team practice will be on Tuesday. So if you see us out there, those are going to be small group. You can have the whole team out there right now, but you're limited on how many hours that you can be out there. So it's a lot of review things from going on to review some things that didn't fall. And then there's a lot of classroom time that we have, and then and a lot of strength training and doing those things right now. Getting ready to go, getting excited. Open up February 15th at UTSA, and just excited to get going. Probably the thing that I would probably like to hit on is we got a core group of guys that have been together for 4 years now. Shane Selman, who was drafted in the 39th round by the Boston Red Sox, decided to come back for his senior year. He's the only player in program history to hit 10 or more homers in 3 consecutive seasons. I think he's on the verge of setting the school record for career home runs. But Shane Selman, Dustin Duhan, Jacob Strachner, Aiden Anderson, Jake Cochran, Nate Fisbeck, Austin Nelson, Brian King. That core group of guys has been together for 4 years now, and they've done a great job from a leadership standpoint. We've got other guys as well, but it's something special about our group of guys that come together, come at the same time, and I'm excited to see what those guys are going to do in 2019.
Okay, go ahead and open it up.
First, similar to softball, I mean, you guys start on the road, but from the start of the season until March 24th, you play 8 road games. Everything else is here. Is it kind of in the same vein as softball, is wanting just to get as much home exposure as possible, or what was it with that?
Well, some of it because of the odd number of teams in our conference, the way that your bye weekend works out. This is the first time we've played 4 consecutive non-conference weekends, and some of it's just scheduling and the way it works out. We knew the trip to San Antonio is a return trip. That was when they were able to. That was when we were able to play them. That'll be the first time in 5 years of us actually opening up on the road. Then after that, we've got 2 round robin tournaments, and some of those are just by chance and how they worked out. And then after that, we'll start the beginning of a home and home with ULM. So ULM will be coming back here in 2020. And so some of it's just kind of the way it works out. I think for the majority of it, especially when you look at our midweek schedule, I think we have 12 midweek games. Sometimes it's 14, depending on how your weekend shape out. A lot of times you're at the mercy of some other teams and when they're going to play, when they're able to fit you in. And so we're very fortunate to be in a good location, a good baseball area, that we're able to get not only quality midweek opponents, but we're able to get some home matchups as well. So some of it, it's more so how does the conference give you your schedule, and then what's available, and what you kind of find out. The better you play, the harder it is to schedule teams, especially to be able to get them at home.
The conference schedule, no Nichols, no Southeastern. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a random draw, and I think Bruce Ludlow does as good of a job trying to make 13 coaches happy with doing that. I think those are random draws. So I think we're on the 3rd cycle, so 6 years since ORU decided to leave the league. That dropped us down to the odd number of teams, eliminated what would be the division. So it just kind of works out that way. Now we do play both of them. We play Nichols in a tournament here. We'll return that trip next year in a tournament, and then we play Southeastern in a home and home. I think those are good rival games, and I think it's I don't think it really gives you necessarily a look or anything. I think we're familiar with those programs enough. The whole intent was finding good quality midweek games, a chance to play, and those 2 programs do as good a job as any. And plus you get a chance to have a home game as well against an opponent that people are familiar with.
Coach, talk a little bit more about the core players. There are about 6 or 7 of them that it says we've been together for 4 years. Hit on the high points of why it's important in your mind in regards to expectations, how the program is run, practices, pregame, the whole thing of prepping for a season and then playing the game, and how they can spread that to these 13 new players.
Sure. I mean, the thing is, once you get guys that've been in your program for a while, when they first start, they're just getting information. They're following directions because they're following the lead of other people. They're doing it because sometimes you told them this is how you do it, and then as you start to grow up in your program or in your system, you start to understand why. You see the successes that come from how you go about and do things. You see the rewards. You see when you get outside of those things how they don't work, and it's really unifying. For a number of guys that are good players like that to be able to stay together for a long time, and not every one of these guys has started every game. I mean, these are some guys that have either had starting jobs, maybe lost them, fought their way back in, part-time players, moved around different positions. it's been a great nucleus of guys that are just, man, I just love being around them. And I think they're such really good leaders for our other players. I mean, when you bring in that many new players, and you know, it's nice to not have to be the only voice. It's nice to have that kind of have that leadership from the inside. That you're not sitting there worried and about different things. And so they're the ones. I mean, we can set the standard. We can say this is what our standard's going to be. But you know, when the locker room takes it over and really drives the bus, that's going to be the difference in your program and how well you're going to be able to do. And because the other part it does, it frees you up to coach, you know. And as a coach, you know, I mean, yeah, we have to babysit sometimes. That's kind of part of the gig, but you're not sitting there worried about that the whole time. You're worried about trying to get these guys better. And the other thing is that group of guys, they know you, they trust you. They wouldn't be here if they didn't. They've been through good times, they've been through tough times, on the field, off the field, personally. Each one of those guys has a story. You've got to see them from when we started recruiting some of these guys in the summer of 2013 when I first got here. So I mean, I know these guys pretty well, know their families, and the fact that they're with you, and they're going to see the whole thing through. It goes to tell you a lot about them, and that's where you get the family element. People who stick with you. I mean, and so family's not always blood, you know, and so it's pretty special to be able to be with those guys. To be honest with you, it's the first time I've talked about it with that group of guys, and I was kind of in preparing to be able to talk about that when I went and looked at it. You saw it was those 9 guys, and you're like, and there's others, okay, but the fact of all those guys being here at the same time, they've been through a lot, they've seen a lot, and you know, you just want to get them as ready as possible, and hopefully take care of them and let them go on a high note.
Well, a good portion of those guys are local kids. Does that make it more easier to get them to stay, or?
You know, I don't. Maybe. I mean, I think that's probably a question, probably for each one of them. But it probably helps knowing that, you know, the family's there. They know they got an opportunity to see them. I mean, not just on weekends and things. But you know, every one of these guys has been through some type of adversity, and their commitment to McNeese, their commitment to each other. To me, that's what's made them stay. And the thing is, there's a lot of really good players on that. So those guys have factored in a lot of wins. Those guys have been on the field, and so that's a tribute to them as well. I think it's a little bit easier to stay in a situation where you're having success personally and as a team. So that they've had opportunities. I'm sure they've had opportunities where they could probably get more playing time, do different things, and most of those guys could play anywhere in the country in a lot of ways. And but their ability to stick together and do that, and you just never know. I mean, you know, you never know what drives a kid. You know, when you first get to know them. But as you get to know them, if you'd have told me now what I know about them and who they are, the fact that they stuck together, it really doesn't surprise me.
Does the fact that Shane passed up a pro start kind of give him a little more leadership in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, I think Shane, you know, saw the value in coming back and getting his degree, and I think he's very well educated on the draft, professional baseball, and understanding what the you know, how the system works, and valuing a high draft pick versus where he got picked, and I think he's gonna have an opportunity to improve his draft stock, and because the thing is, with the way it's going with the numbers and analytics, and that there's so many things that are that they value that's different than just the eyeball test of scouts now. He's got data. He's got power. I mean, and you know, I think he's gonna have a chance to improve that. I think he's gonna show that, and I think his track to potentially, you know, ultimately, I mean, he wants to make the big leagues, and but his track to the big leagues is going to be just as fast, if not faster, by coming back for one more year of school, and plus he'll have his degree.
How do you see the impact of getting Nelson, Beaton, and
Bisbeck? That's huge. That's huge. You know, and they were there. They were there last year. They tried. I mean, there's only it's they tried to lead. They tried to be, and they were great teammates and did everything that was asked of them, what they could physically be able to do last year. It's just something different about being a contributing member. It's just something different about knowing that the game could swing, the balance of the game could swing in your at bat or your appearance on the mound and those kind of things. And those guys are just the fact they're excited to be there. They have such joy being out on the field right now. And you know, the thing is, when you go through something like that, whether it be an injury or anytime the game's taken away from you, it gives you such a perspective. You take less things for granted. You take opportunities. You don't take those for granted. The other thing is the moment slows down for you a little bit. Like you realize it's not as big of a moment. It's not as big of a deal. That the pressure is a lesson in a way. You get to enjoy the moment, and just they were great. They were great. They did everything that they could last year. But they've had a compound effect on our team this year, and I think you have a chance to see that impact our team in a positive way.
You see that especially from Nelson, who obviously came back from something he called near death. What kind of influence that can be on a team? You talked about what he did when he showed up the one time for the one at bat. We talked about what about for a whole year now? They've seen him, they've been with him, and how he treats the game differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think Austin has such a unique perspective because he's been playing competitive sports. He's been playing competitive collegiately both semesters, you know, and so I think he walks in with a degree of respect just coming in. But what Austin does such a good job of, even though he's been an all-conference player and he's hit the home run in the conference tournament over the center field fence and just he's done some really cool things that basically everybody knows about. He comes in because he knows he missed the fall with the team. He comes in and he tries to earn the new guys' respect, and he comes in and he's not better than anybody. It's not, he just falls right in line with other guys. Now he leads, okay, but it's by example, and he'll say something if he needs to. But yeah, I think he has an impact. It's probably an impact maybe that I don't see, probably from a leadership standpoint. So I mean, but his presence definitely is felt, and that's another guy that has great joy when he plays the game. It's hard to describe it, but and I feel pretty good about it when he's up there. So
you speak of those new guys coming in. You got several coming from the junior college level, and a lot of them had great success there. How do you see them translating that to D1 baseball and Southland baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think these next 3 weeks are going to be really important for them, just in figuring out how do the pieces fit together. I think the pieces are there. When you look from a skill set, talent, whatever you want to call it, whether it be on the mound, position player wise, I think it's a matter is, you know, what is the best fit? How do they fit best together? You know, there's a term called synergy, whereas 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, 1 + 1 = 3. And so it's not necessarily the guy with the best batting average. It's not necessarily the guy with the best ERA. I can think back when I was a pitching coach, and we had a guy with a 5.5 ERA that was starting on Sundays for us. But he ended up being 9-1. He had 14 starts, and we were 12-2 in his starts. But he had a 5.5 ERA. For whatever reason, our guys scored runs for him. You know, and you start to see some of those things, you know, develop. But that's what the preseason's for. That's what the pre-conference, those first 18 games, moving parts, trying to figure out, hey, who gets the first shot? Because they're going to earn their first shot. Okay, they're going to earn their first shot. You know, and they know it's competitive. They know there's a lot of moving parts, whether it be into the 13 new guys or returning guys that are coming in, or the returning guys who've been here and they maybe not had as much playing time. They kind of know you're going to earn your job here. I mean, it doesn't matter if you start at every game. You're going to go out and go be the best guy, and there's something to that with our guys, and they understand that they're all going to want to play. When we got that lineup, there's going to be 25 guys who are really upset with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't want to be happy with that, but we expect to be great teammates, find a way to contribute to a win. But understand if they do what they have to do, they're going to get their opportunities. It may not line up exactly where they want to, But it's going to be competitive, and we've had some really good team camaraderie. They don't just spend time together because we make them at the field. They come, they hang out in the locker room, they hit extra, they do all those things, but you find that they hang out together too, not just at the park. So I'm excited to see this team come together with that.
Coach, you mentioned a lot of moving parts. No one wants to be under 500. What are some of the areas of those moving parts that critical for quick improvement to get those 10 to 12 extra wins?
Sure. I mean, the number one thing, win a championship. You're good. Your players, you're good players. Everybody has to perform to their level they're capable of. We're not asking Shane Selman to hit 25 homers and drive in 120 runs. We're asking Shane Selman to do what Shane Selman does. We're asking Carson Maxwell to do what he does. We're asking each guy to do what they're capable of doing, not to give some type of superhuman feat of that. The other thing is you got to stay healthy. I think with what we do in the athletic training room, what we do in the weight room, everything is geared upon staying healthy, and with doing that, so that you have to balance those things. And the last one, you got to get lucky. I mean, that's how you win a championship. Your good players do what they're supposed to do. You stay healthy and you get lucky. But how do you get lucky? You work really hard. You put yourself in those positions. Why does Tom Brady end up in all these Super Bowls? Well, he ends up in all these AFC Championship games. Well, then he ends up in the divisional round, and he ends up you start to see the ingredients. It's not just those things. I mean, so there's some again there's lots of moving parts that kind of go with that. But we got to go out. We got to go play well. We got a challenging schedule. I thought last year was one of our most challenging schedules. I think this one's just as hard, if not harder. But we've got to make sure and play to the level we can. And part of that is I've got to do a better job. I don't think I prepared the team as well as I could. I think I learned a lot last year as far as preparing a team, and I want to. I believe I made some positive adjustments with those things, and I think our players have done the same thing.
You mentioned being ready to play. You're excited. I guess how much of that is to prove that last year was, I guess, a fluke or just a one-off?
I mean, I just like baseball. I love baseball. I mean, I don't. I'm a football and basketball fan. I'm a baseball coach, and I love going to the football games. I love watching Coach Schroyer. Hoot and holler and yell and throw fits, and I'm so jealous of him. I really am. He can yell at the official and he doesn't get thrown out. It's one of the. I just love baseball, and I think it's the greatest game in the world. I think you get a chance to do a lot of great things. I have a strong passion for that. I think you can. I think my players know that, and I love seeing young men get better. And and I want to win. That's it. I want to win. I want to win. And if we play checkers, I want to win. If we play golf, I want to win. Like whatever it is, I just want to win. So, the some people hate to lose. Some people love to win. I kind of both. Last year, I mean, I feel like it's one of those things. If anytime your motivation changes, like hey, we want to repeat. Hey, we want to show last year was a fluke. Well, then you're trying to hit a moving target. And I don't think there's any stability with that for me personally. So, do I think that drives some guys? Absolutely, I do. And I think that's okay. I think each person kind of drives, has their own motivation. But I just want to be the best that I can. I want to know as much as I can for our players to help put them in the best position. Because the thing is, I'm not throwing a pitch. Coach Z's not going to swing a bat. This year, we're not going to do these things. We got to make sure we're preparing these guys to be able to go win. That's what they want. If they want to win, I want to put them in the best situation to do that.
Coach, what are they doing at your facility? I'm seeing bricks and mortar and shrubs and fence and everything all over the place.
Just another year, Ron. Just another year. It's kind of what we do. So, so this year we've added a new padded wall to the outfield. So that was a project that we had over the fall. We have a new batter's eye. It's a new 38-foot tall batter's eye. So that's the big black monstrosity that you see in center field. That is something, and a lot of, kind of just to educate folks, is something. Sometimes it blends in with the stadium. Sometimes it's pretty, prominent, like ours is. That is for the batter, the catcher, and the umpire to be able to see the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand, because sometimes there are problems with the sky or a light or something like that, and so that's something. Sometimes it blends into the stadium, then sometimes you have to put up a big wall or big fence to be able to not see it. And then the third piece of that is the new restrooms and concession stand that are currently under construction. Those are not scheduled to be completed before the season ends. I think the drop dead date on that is going to be July the 1st. But once they get the roof on, they can move a lot faster, and I think they're really close to that. So we'll have some temporary facilities, but that's just the price of progress we're doing. So it's going to be a lot better for our fans, and we're just going to just keep trying to make it better.
I want to go back to Coach Landreneau. If you kind of, what you know right now about the outlook for the conference season.
The
As the conference as a whole, not just.
I think our conference probably has the most parity I've seen since I've been at McNeese. In coaching, Nichols returns just about everybody. I think they lost one starter, and that's a team that won the regular season conference last year, as well as SFA. Just Nicole's did an outstanding job of that program, getting them where they at. Rick at Southeastern's done a great job, and David at Central always keeps his team up there. They're always in the top 5, it seems like. And then Donald was able to, he's good. They have a little bit of veterans coming back this year, and they're going to be really strong in the circle. And then the team that's kind of sleeping is Sam Houston. Sam Houston returns to McLeod kid that actually had an unbelievable conference tournament, and they added I think a transfer in there that from what people are talking about this fall, that they were a really good softball team. They got some new energy right there with a new coach, and Garrett does it. He's been there for years, but as a head coach, he's kind of got some new energy going. So there's going to be some excitement. I really think this is going to be a tough conference race. It's going to be really interesting throughout the season. So really, and that's why, Matt, that's why we're playing the schedule we're playing. And Jim was talking about that earlier, playing tough competition. And that road stand when we go on. I mean, first of all, second weekend we'll play A&M twice in their tournament. And then you get on the road, we'll have a little home stand here against Austin Peay. Then when you get on the road, and you'll travel and play at Tulsa twice, and you'll play at Oklahoma State as well as OU. And then LSU being on the schedule as well as Lafayette, we'll play a home and home with them this season. So our midweeks are tough, but hopefully that really prepared us for down the stretch to play some tough games and help our kids mature at a faster rate.
Coach Hill, the same thing in baseball, the conference outlook in your eyes.
It's going to be 10 weekends of just 3-round slobber knockers, man. I mean, this is going to be a fight. Everybody's competitive. Everybody's making improvements. Everybody's is coached well. Their facilities are great. They are making improvements. Everybody's trying to move in the right direction. There's support from the administration. I mean, everybody's trying to make the move, and so it's highly competitive. I don't think there's a team that you can. There isn't a team that you can take for granted. There isn't a team that you can take a weekend off. I think anytime you go on the road, it's hard to play. Everybody's got unique venues. They have their own challenges. Bottom line is we got to get ready. We got to get ready for just a good old-fashioned fight on the weekend. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
All right. Anybody else?